back, guys. What episode is this now?
Hey guys. What, 21 or something? I don't know.
Man, it feels like it's been forever. Like we've been doing this for a very long time. But we really haven't.
I don't feel like we've been doing it for a long time. Like
Really?
when I look at the episode and how many, like one of the last episodes, I was like, what is this? Like episode 12, and it was like 19. I was like, oh fuck, dude, damn. It feels like we just did it, but yeah, it's cool.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like it's been such a long time. I'm even like, oh, we should get so and so back on the show, like Romy and a few of the other people. And I keep thinking about that. I'm like, it really hasn't been that long to like re-invite them back onto the show. I was like, we'll probably do it anyways.
Yeah, although no, I don't think anybody's gonna mind if we do.
If we get Romy or Steven back on. Yeah. Anyways, hey guys.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about Neuralink, AI, automatization, basically all of future tech, and how it will affect us, and whether we would make those choices or not. So recently, I've been reading a book called Homo Deus. I know there's gonna be so many jokes online like Homo this.
Homo Diaz? Yeah. Which one, Nick or Nate?
Diaz. Oh, that's funny. That's good. And it's basically talking about. He originally wrote a book called *Sapiens*. Great read. It's Yuval Harari, I think is how you say his name. And he originally wrote a book called *Sapiens*, and it was the history of humanity. It's from beginning evolution all the way up till now. Great read. And he does cover a little bit of technology in the future of where we're going. But this book just is like extensive on talking about how we're going to evolve, and more than likely technology or biological alterations are going to be the future of humanity. And it just... this whole subject's been something I've been interested in for a long time, but I haven't really had a time to kind of voice it and kind of process it. And I feel like I swing both ways when I hear different sides of the argument of whether we should or shouldn't, or there's even the religious side of the mark of the beast, and like it gets really crazy when you start getting into the subject.
666.
Yep, the mark of the beast. But the thing I want to start off with is the two fundamental truths about humanity. We've stated this before, we're not the strongest, there's only a couple of reasons why we're the apex predator on the planet. Like there's very few things that are absolutes about pretty much all humanity, and it's that we're great at cooperation and we're great at stories, narratives. Those are the two things that have helped us be able to evolve and become what we are. Like, we can create structures that outlive individuals, like corporations and religions and things like that, because they're narratives of cooperation, right? Those are like the reason, back in the early days when it was like, hey, down at the river, there's a tiger, don't go down there. But the apple's on this other side of the whatever, like that's a great place to go. That helped us survive better than, other people. Hannah even brought up a great story of this one tribe that not too long ago, it was during written period, that they would basically kill their elderly. They were a burden, and they were like, go. I don't know if this is a wives' tale or whatever, but they would go take them out on wagons, leave them out in the wilderness, and they would die. They were like, "You're a burden, go." Well, one day, this one gentleman was like, "Hey, Mom, it's time. Like, we're gonna take you." And his son walks up, and he's like, kind of curious. He's like, "Hey, Dad, am I gonna do this for you one day?" And he's like, "Fuck." He's like, "Yeah, Grandma, your mom, you can stay. Like, we'll hide you. We'll hide you. We just won't tell anybody." So she hides. Well, not too long from that, the tribe gets in a drought and a famine, and they can't feed themselves. And they all meet, and they're all like, "What are we gonna do? We're all gonna die." And the guy goes back to his house, and he's like, "Mom, I don't know how we can survive." And she's like, "Oh, we've been through this before. You just do this and we'll all survive." And he's like, "Really?" And she's like, yeah, just go do that and everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Goes back, comes up with the idea. Nobody really says anything at first. Then it works. Then they're like, how the fuck did you know that? Where'd you get this information? Well, my grandma or my mom's still alive, so she told me. She apparently went through it. And they're like, maybe we should reconsider this killing the elderly thing. Like, they do have some information. So it's that narrative of cooperation, right?
Yeah. And it makes sense with somebody like that. That guy who wrote the book Sapiens, it's like everything he got to, all the information he learned to write that book is all narratives, right? And from him learning all those narratives, he was able to see enough patterns to where he could predict what's going to happen in the future, at least have a pretty good guess as to what's going to happen in the future. And that's only by studying what the past has been.
Right. Yeah. We are pattern prediction machines for sure, but there are other species that are very good at pattern prediction as well, which, everybody used to think that was like the one thing that makes us really good. And then we started looking at orcas and, dolphins, and we're like, fuck, and even octopus. And we're like, they're pretty fucking good at it too. Yeah. Like, the pattern prediction is not a sole human characteristic, and cooperation isn't a sole human characteristic, but narrative, being able to take those things and put them together and create a narrative, that is something we are very good at. And, currency, like handing out money. It's like, hey, this is worth this much. This is worth that entire basket of apples. Really? Okay, sure. Like, I believe that narrative. Yeah. Like, I trust in that enough. So yeah, absolutely. I'll take your piece of paper. And give you my entire basket, because I can take this piece of paper and go buy, this other thing.
It's so crude. Money is such a weird thing, because it's like, it's paper. Like, here, we've all decided that this value is worth this much. Yeah. And we just take it at that. It's a weird thing. Sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, that's just green paper. Like,
well, corporations and religions, and I mean, even rent, if you think about it, is super weird. It's like, I own this home, but you can live in it if you pay me this paper. Yeah. Like, and sometimes not even paper, electronic.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get to things like Bitcoin, where new currency is being created, and like that was like a big, like, I could not wrap my head around that. I was like, wait, it's like money, but it's not, and it's but it's on the computer, but it can turn into money, but it's worth money. But I was like, wait, I'm really glad that it didn't go to the place that it looked like it was going to, because I didn't want to have to figure it out.
Electronic energy turned into mathematical equations that equates dollar symbols because it's worth energy and time. That's essentially what Bitcoin is. Yeah, it's fucking...
Those were all words that I understand individually, but like put together.
But where this all comes, kind of wrapped into this, is that because of this cooperation, we've created technology. And for those who are like, no, it's not technology is not naturally part of humanity. Maybe not bits and bytes, but spears and cars and planes, and then further and further, like, it is part of us. It is an extension of us.
I would say technology is part of humanity.
Yeah,
I would say it goes hand in hand with humanity.
It goes to the people who say, oh, it's civilization is not natural, like how we do civilization. But if you look at it, it's like, well, we do it, and we do it a lot, and we've done it for a very, very long fucking time. So it kind of is natural. Yeah, it is.
What's that argument?
Oh man. Well, I can't speak for them, but from what I hear, they're basically saying nature is our natural selves when we're out in the woods and, hunter-gatherer kind of pre-Paleolithic kind of era. That's natural.
But even then, like, if civilization is not natural, how would you explain that there were all kinds of different civilizations at different corners of the world when they had never encountered each other and never been given the idea of civilization, and they just came up with it on their own?
Yeah, absolutely. Islands. I was telling Hannah that there were whole Pacific islands for the longest period that they had at one point migrated to these islands, but then they completely forgot that the mainland existed, because once they migrated there, it was too difficult to leave. So generation after generation lived there, and they, became kind of like this story, and then it became this non-existent thing, and then they were like, oh yeah, we're at the center of the universe. Like, oh, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, we're the tiniest of the universe. Okay, like there's a bigger mainland and they have big ships and guns and they want to take our people. Okay, shit, this is a different kind of reality. But how technology, I think, kind of plays into this is that we're constantly creating things to communicate and that tell narratives, right? Bitcoin's a great example. That we're constantly creating these new narratives, corporations, Bitcoin, then there's blockchain technology, which is one I'm not even going to get into. That's a giant clusterfuck of a conversation. But it all comes back to recently where this really started to become a big issue for me of really thinking about this was Neuralink. Neuralink is a company created by Elon Musk, and they're talking about placing chips inside of human brains, and they've already had trials and done it where individuals can move a computer internally with their brain. They can just move it around with their brain, and they're going to start field trials on Parkinson's and a few other motor diseases of being able to help the individuals move their bodies. And then they're going to move on to the computer side, being able to control machines with their minds. And then the last one stage that they're talking about going to is being able to control motor function, or not motor function, but memory and motivation and other sensory controls. Essentially being able to hack your own internal brain. And I don't want to drink more than one drink in a week. Click, done. I want to meditate, an hour every single day. I'm going to hardwire my motivation. I'm going to do it. Click. Like that, gets really, really interesting. And then what it does to society. Imagine competing for a job interview and one person has a Neuralink and you don't. And now you have to go try to beat this guy who literally, oh, wait, you say he knows how to design this thing? 1 second. Yeah, I can do that. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, try to compete in that job market, you know? And the reason Elon Musk is creating this Neuralink is because he really believes in AI merging into our society and really kind of taking over. And he wants to create this for humans so that we can compete with it. So that's what's on my mind.
Yeah.
It is a lot. I mean, there's argument that's saying that we're currently cyborgs already. I mean, we're, sitting here with cell phones, it's just the rate of being able to process this information. The what is it? The upload is fast, but the download is slower. Like us being able to receive the information off of the phone is slow right now. But it's faster than when we had a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like saying that we're cyborgs now seems like a stretch. Like I understand the argument.
Yeah.
And I get that, we're attached to our phones and like, I think emotionally we're attached to it, but it's like, it's a bit of a stretch. Like, you can still go leave your phone at home and go out somewhere and do something. And it's just not part of you. It's easily accessible and it's convenient and it's nice, but, and I mean, like I said, I get the argument, but I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Well, I think the counter argument to that is a cyborg could detach his arm, or let's say a cybernetic arm. He could detach his arm and put it on the table and leave without it.
Then he's no longer a cyborg.
Well, is he or isn't he? Because he can pick that up and put it back on.
Now he's a cyborg.
And I'm not married. Now I'm married. I'm not married.
You have
like taking off the ring doesn't change.
You have legal documents stating that you're married.
Another social construct that we created.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, but so is marriage.
I think there's something more innate to it than just it's attached, it's not attached kind of thing that makes a person a cyborg.
A cyborg is someone who is part mechanic, right, and part human, right? So if there's no mechanics, if there's no technology, if there's no electronics, you're not a cyborg. And
fair, but imagine you lost your phone and you can never regain the information that's on your phone again. No phone numbers, no notes, no social connections. How dramatically would you be a different person? Like how much would it alter your state of existence if you could never get, you can't, other than your memory that you have right now stored in your brain, how many phone numbers do you have memorized?
Oh, not a lot, but I know the phone numbers of the people who I need. I know I know where to find them. You know, I
Can't
know.
use other people's phones either.
No, I know, but I'm saying I know where to find them. Like if I had lost my phone and I lost all my contacts and all my pictures and everything, and I had no way of ever getting it back, I would know to come to your house, write your phone number down on a piece of paper. I would know to go to my friend's house, my parents' houses. I would know to go to the gym, go get most people. Like it would be a bummer. I would be like, oh, but I think probably
How would
after,
you call them? I mean, you don't have a phone.
get a house phone, or I don't know, or maybe just go see them. I don't know, like go see. Then you just go see. I think you'd probably be happier after that point,
Yeah.
and it would. Yeah, you know what's funny is I've been thinking a lot lately that like I've been overwhelmed. Like I feel like there's just been too much in my life, so I'm like I'm really welcoming of something being taken away, like or like anything being taken away. I'm like I'm pretty welcoming of it because there's just too much shit, and I don't need any more shit.
No, you know what? There's a case for that too. There's actually a movement. We tried to get them on the show, but they didn't want to come on the show. It was a movement called Gobrick, and they essentially have these events or meetings where they take their phones and they put them in like old VHS tapes or books that are like cut out, and they turn their phones off. They put them in there and they put them up on a shelf or away. And for a day or a weekend or a night, no phone, like completely off the grid. They don't. You can take a regular camera, like a non-digital camera. They'll allow that, but anything else with technology, they're like, no, it's not allowed. It's kind of interesting that movements like that are becoming more of a thing. It's also ironic that they have an Instagram page.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, that's. I mean, I like stuff like that. I when one of the best feelings was when I did the Ultimate Fighter, and I was, the week that I was there, they took my phone away, and I had no contact with anybody, and fuck, dude, it was nice. Oh, it was so nice.
Yeah.
Just that week, just sleeping. Like there was some boredom to deal with, but it was just nice, man.
Yeah.
Just not having to worry about people getting a hold of me and like my phone just lit off. Like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I want to look at it, you know, and it's just like those urges are gone. And it's like, I don't know, just like I said, I'm just really welcoming of things being taken away. Although it was exciting to get my phone back when I got it back, but just still, it was, I always tell people that was one of the nicest things. Was just having no phone.
See, I have this tug and pull. I had a professor, Peter Wallstrom, and he would take us out to the Boundary Waters for a little trip, and you could have an analog watch, but he would even recommend like don't bring that. No cell phone. He would have a satellite phone for emergencies. But this place is the Boundary Waters. There's no mechanical. You can't bring ATV. You can't bring a motorized boat in there. You can't bring your cars. Like it is probably one of the few untouched places on the planet.
Where's it at?
It's in northern Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
And it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's just absolutely stunning. Seeing a place where...
Oh, is that like boundary to Canada? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is boundary to Canada. It's actually part of Canada too, but it's part of the United States as well. It's like international, I think. I'd have to double check that. But not having your phone during that time or any technology, and granted, this was when I went, cell phones weren't truly what they are today.
Yeah.
I mean, they were, still iPhones, but they weren't quite the same. But still, being completely removed from all technology, all TV, is absolutely a wonderful experience. On the counter side, if I could get a chip and I could hack so much knowledge and learning and, improve the quality of my life and the people's lives around me. And I mean, one of my greatest regrets is that I will never be able to know everything. Like, I know it's really stupid and it's probably a very dumb concept, but I love learning. I just love learning. And, Brandon the other day asked me, he's like, what are you obsessed about? Like, it seems like you've never been obsessed about anything. And I was thinking about it and I was like, learning, like just learning. It's like, that's stupid. Like, but it's true. Like, the only thing I've ever been obsessed about is learning. I want to always learn another thing, a new thing. I want to understand every perspective, and I know I can't.
Yeah.
But with a neurochip,
yeah, you're like, I was listening to Tim Ferriss the other day, and it makes sense why you like him so much, because he said something that reminded me of you. He was like, he was like, I'm pretty much just like a blue belt at everything. I'll never get past that. But like, he's like, I just like learn this thing a little bit, and then I learn the next thing a little bit, and I just get a little bit proficient at it, and I skip on to the next thing, and I want to know, because I want to know everything. And he's like jack of all trades, the same thing.
It's that thing, yeah.
But I don't know if, putting a chip in your head. It's funny because when I was thinking about this yesterday, because when I knew we were gonna do this, I was like, yeah, dude, like more than likely, like I'll go with it. Like, it's not something I put a lot of thought into, because I don't spend much time thinking about things that I don't think I have much opportunity to change, which is most things, right? The more I live, the more I realize that there's little things that I'm able to change,
Yeah.
As like being married, you find that out, and like just everything. Like you, if you sit there and try to change things and you worry about changing them, you're just going to be eternally disappointed most of the time, unless you're changing yourself. But yeah, so this thing I never really give too much thought to, but I was like, like once it came, yeah, I'd integrate, because that's just the way that things are going. That's the next step in humanity. And I read that the last chapter of Everything is Fucked, the Mark Manson book, the last one I read, it's all about integrating with AI and talking about the future of humanity, and talking about how he would accept it, just because that's the next step to humanity. Just like, evolving into humans was the next step for, when we're,
Right.
I don't know much about the history, but, as we're evolving, and integrating with technology is just a foregone conclusion for the next step. But I don't know if it would be hard for me to do it without knowing there's an opportunity to take it back. Also, like once it's in my brain, would I want to take it back? Because would it take over, the desires? And what's scary about it is that everybody gets a Neuralink, then we can all become whatever we want without having to work for it. So then you don't get the satisfaction from like a job well done doing it. You just fucking adjust your settings, and then your motivation is here for this thing, and you do whatever for this thing. And I don't know how much I like the idea of achieving all these things without putting in the work for the things.
I get that.
Yeah.
Well, you could just change that motivation. You wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, but then you are putting yourself at a standard that is way below, but you got to keep up with everybody, right? You got to be, your standard has, like, it used to be where, it was very few kids had phones, when you're in school, like when phones first came out, like, oh shit, so-and-so has a phone. And now it's like 6-year-old, 7-year-old kids at school, they have phone. Like, it's just a standard. And if you get to that point where everybody has Neuralink, like, you kind of have to do it, like.
Well, that's the thing that I've been researching on this too, is they're talking about the wealth gap inequality, right? The first early adopters who really get the really advanced tech, right? Not just the motor function stuff, but like the actual motivation stuff, like the early adopters, they're going to have such a learning curve. Like, think about programmers, right? Programmers are a great example of this. When an early programmer learned just basic code, that's all there was. And then they stacked on top of that and stacked on top of that and learned new codes. And then now these guys are owning, creating, designing companies that change the existence of humanity. Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, they're all created by original designers. That is a big deal. That's a very big deal. And for the way, I mean, look at Bezos. He's the richest man on the planet. Jeff Bezos, I don't know after his divorce if he is anymore, but
I think he still is.
is he?
Well, I know. Well, at least Amazon is
Right.
worth. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but look at how rich he is and how long it took for him to gain that wealth and how long it took the previous generations to gain that wealth. They were heiresses and heirs of, vast sums of money that were able to turn that into a greater empire. They didn't, it was gradual steps to where they were. I mean, there's a few exceptions, but I mean, then you look at Jeff Bezos in his short lifetime as a adult, not like a kid, but an adult, he became one of the richest men in the planet. And when you add technology like this, that it could literally alter when you're an early adopter, the catch up for the poorer countries or the lower minorities, the people who, can't afford this technology off the bat. I mean, like a Tesla, right? I imagine it's probably going to be an operation, above $10,000. I'm guessing, right? No, I don't really know, but I'm taking a easy stab at that. It's going to be, it's going to cost more than $10,000. If I fucking hustle for a long time and save up, I could probably afford it. Maybe
You could probably finance it.
yeah, maybe, but it'd be really difficult, right?
Yeah.
But now imagine a family from Detroit or Africa or India, or like they're not going to be able to afford it.
Yeah.
So them catching up to us, there's going to be such a wide gap, and we are going to be able to like
It's just going to increase the gap even further. Than
yeah.
what
Imagine
it is.
going on the New York Stock Exchange with that chip.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of information, granted, it's that original chip isn't going to be that advanced that it's going to be, you're able to go on the New York Stock Exchange and just blow up the market and then, just rob everything. It's not going to really work like that, and not as far as I understand, but I'm sure there are going to be major advantages to the first early adopters over everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine those initial adopters are probably going to really have a head start. Like they're really to increase that lead that they already have over everybody, which is a bummer. But then I wonder if once they get to the point where it's a standard thing and everybody has it, is that going to like open up the opportunities? Like, or is that going to close the opportunities because everybody's has the same ability? Because right now, not everybody has the same ability. You have your advantages, your disadvantages, so you play into those. If you're smart, you play into your advantages and you kind of work around your disadvantages, and that's how you get, instead of sitting there and wondering why people have more than you and yada yada. But then when everybody's got the same mental capacity, the same strengths, the same weaknesses, or whatever, like it's gonna be really hard to stand out and differentiate yourself and have a product that's create a product that's unique to what everybody else in the world has.
Well, I think it's just like cell phones. We all have cell phones, but how we all use it are very, very different. How I use my cell phone and how you use your cell phone is very different. But then you get to my daughter, how she uses her cell phone. I hate that she has one, but how she uses her cell phone versus how I use my cell phone, again, vastly different. We have the same technology. Technically, my daughter has a better phone than I do.
Yeah.
But how we use it, very different. So the technology hasn't changed.
But
I can download the same apps you can. You can download the same apps I can. But because there's a wider availability, I choose what suits my personality to alter that experience a little bit differently.
Yeah, but I'm speaking on more of a business standpoint in making money and opportunities to make money. So we all choose to use our cell phones a certain way, but our cell phones in that aspect, sometimes they do, but they don't really make us money. How we're using our cell phones most of the time aren't making us money. So I'm talking about, because say you had something, right? Your YouTube or something, you had a great YouTube or a huge Instagram where you're getting sponsors and you're making a lot of money, right? But it's you, right? It's you. It's because of your personality. It's because of what you're doing. You're creative, and people are wanting to follow you. Now, if somebody's doing that in the future when people have Neuralink, then I could do the same thing. I could be like, all right, I'm going to make my settings just like theirs, and then I'm going to do it, and then somebody else does that, and then it just saturated. So then that's no longer a thing where that you're unique, and then you're making money off of it because you can get it anywhere.
Very possible. It's all speculation. Like maybe it will make us all equal. And in that regards, is it so terrible? But, and then in another regards, it's like, we're still unique, and it's still a device. It's still the actions you input into it, right? Mm-hmm. If let's say this is the really advanced version of Neuralink, right? Not this version that they're talking about, but the like Gen 2 or Gen 3, right? The really crazy one. If I tell it first, learn how to read faster, or learn how to, like the old original hack that I did, right? Memory recall and speed reading. Yeah. That's a superpower. If I take that and that's my first input I put into it, everything else is 2 times, 3 times, whatever times faster than everybody else. Now everybody else has to catch up to my input until somebody figures out that, oh yeah, that was a hack. And then somebody else figures out a different hack to the implant. I don't think it's going to be equal. I think it's still technology, it's still how you press the buttons or turn the switch or whatever, put the input into the technology. I don't think we can all be equal. I don't think even with the technology we can all be equal.
But it would be so easy to catch up. It would be so easy to because especially if there was a certain spot, like if you were, say you had speed reading, right? And you read something and you found something that you wanted to create and you created it. And then somebody else saw that and they created it. Like everything would just be so short lived. Like even if you were a step ahead and you kept creating new things, people are going to catch up to you.
No, I think you're right.
They're going to copy you that same way.
I think you're right. I think there will be some major differences, and then some people will be able to figure out how they did it and they'll rework it, but there will be that competition. But it's also like Moore's law, right? Moore's law is every computer power will double itself every 18 months. But Moore's law has a cap. Silicon computer chips can only handle so much processing power before they heat up and they burn out, right? So we're constantly looking for other types of technology to replace it for when Moore's law breaks. Because imagine 18 months it goes by, you buy a Christmas gift computer for your mother, right? Then 18 months come around and you're looking at the newest computer and it's identical. Because the heat it's incapable of cooling itself any further. We can't cool it fast enough, so it's reached its cap of what technology it is. What do we do then? Well, we just stop buying from Silicon Valley. Like it basically it changes overnight, right?
Yeah.
But what if quantum computers could be solved with this chip, right? What if we could solve quantum computers? I don't even know how to explain them, but they're basically hyper cooled, advanced computers that we can't even make the computers right now. They're working on it. They're trying to understand it. They're trying to develop it. They're even using AI to try to help them design it, but we can't quite figure it out. It's a completely different system, how they design them. But that will be the next future of technology. If somebody can figure it out with this chip and they're the first ones to input a quantum chip in their brain, the race is back on again, right? That's basically what I imagine happening. Is we will constantly keep pushing that boundary, and I don't think anybody will ever make it equal playing. I think we're just constantly trying to 2x everything.
It just seems like a race. It's when the blog that I wrote this week, I put in there that all technology seems like what it all seems like is a effort to cut down on time, right? For things to take less time. And it seems like at that point, if you're just next thing, it's like you're just racing to the end of the world. Like like if eventually resources, the faster we do things like that, the faster we consume resources, the faster the world ends. And it just seems like that's like a fast burning candle right there at that point.
I agree. There's just so much information going on these days. Like that, like I said, I want to know everything, right? But do I? It's like Solomon, right? Like the more you know, the more miserable you are. But yeah, I mean, I wonder, do I really want to know everything, or is it just like this fantasy, or is some underlying instinct that I have? You know, I'm always fascinated. Like I'm, you know, out in the garage, I'm carving with stone chess set while I have bow in the back that I, you know, practice, and I go to jujitsu and I meditate and I do marketing and I, you know, I have all these different hobbies, right? And it's all over the place and it's always changing. I love that.
Yeah. So do you like, what means more to you? Knowing everything or having the opportunity to know things? Like what if right now you could like push something and download every bit of knowledge in the world and you had nothing more to learn? Like what would your motivation be for tomorrow?
I feel like if I were like that, I mean, we're talking about godhood at that point, right? I mean, it's essentially, I mean, you might as well, if you have all the information of everything, that's godhood. I guess, you know, my initial instinct would be use that information to change humanity, and make sure we don't go extinct. And I guess it's a very self-preservation kind of mentality. It's like furthering the spread of humanity. I don't even know if that's a good thing because you know, sometimes we're a parasite.
Yeah.
So
sometimes.
Maybe try to find a way to make humanity and society better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know I wouldn't want that. I know that, and the way that I look at life in my head is to always strive for perfection, just striving to be better. But I don't see an endpoint. I see the endpoint of being dying, but I see me striving to be better until the day that I die, you know, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with there not being an endpoint, and I'm okay with there always being something new to reach for. And actually like that. If there was nothing new for me to reach for, I would get like really, really stale, and I would probably get really depressed. And I remember there was in the movie Troy, he talks about it's Achilles, it's Brad Pitt, and he's saying like, he says, I forget who he's talking to, but he's like, no, it's the gods who envy us because, you know, everything we see is more beautiful. We see more color in the flowers. We see everything because our time is limited and we're learning and we're knowing things new. And as opposed to somebody who's existed for so long and they know so much, everything becomes taken for granted and becomes mundane. And that same fucking red flower that you've seen forever, that a human sees for the first time, it may be like the most beautiful thing they've ever seen.
Yeah. I agree with that. I guess this is why I wanted to talk about it, because I feel this tug towards this quote unquote more natural way of living, like we were talking about with just enjoying life, slowing down, not doing too much, less technology. I love that. I really do. I like when we sit here and have conversations and we just talk. I like when me and my wife go on a walk and, you know, we don't bring our phones. I like that stuff. But I also know that with AI coming, a lot of jobs are going to be automated, right? And I think about self-preservation of my family. Like, what can I do? Luckily, there's a website where you can check whether your job is going to be automated and by when. I already checked yours, and I checked mine. It is called "Will Robots Steal My Job?" I think it's called. I think that's what it's called. It's fucking hilarious. I love it. But luckily, you and me are safe. I think you're a little safer than I am. I think I'm at 14% likelihood. They said that the more money there is in something, and the more mundane it is, or the more
creative, right?
Surprisingly not. Creative is not a category. Creative AI is designing art, and there's a algorithm that replicated Mozart and Beethoven and played it to a bunch of people, and they presented it as a lost piece of his work, and they were like, people were crying and were wonderful, and then they told them what happened, what they did, and some of them were like, nope, I knew it, something was wrong with it, and then the other people were like, enraged, like, how dare you? So one of the guys went and said, all right, we're going to do a test. We'll get all the, bunch of people, experts in the world. I'm going to have one of my students, myself, and then this computer, and we're going to compete against each other. And then we'll ask the people which one is, I think it was Beethoven or Mozart that they were all trying to replicate, a unique thing. Well, when it was a blind study, almost everybody said that the main challengers was the most robotic, so they thought his was the fake, almost all of them. And then the inspired one they thought was the professor, but it was really the AI. And now the next gen of this computer is able to do writing and haikus and things like that. And it put out this AI, and the professor put out a book where it's mixed between humans and AI, and the challenge is figure out which one's not the computer.
I like that. I wish they would do that with like all art, so people could realize that art's kind of bullshit.
It's not bullshit.
It's not bullshit, but it is. But like when you just, I don't know, when people are like, oh my God, this is great. And then because it's from Mozart, and then you hear that it's not from Mozart and it loses value.
It's subjective value for sure.
It's fucking, and it's just like, some of it's so stupid. Like, I get it. Like art, like this art on the wall right here, I'm sure Hannah did.
Yeah.
And that's a great piece of art. Like, I love it. But like, I'm not going to pay 20 grand for it.
Right.
And I'm not going to pay 20 grand for it if somebody else, if Picasso did it. Like,
yeah.
It's just fucking, I don't give a fuck, dude. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Art's another subject for a different day.
It's great. It's a great expression. And I think it should be that, but I don't know. It upsets me. Especially when people try to like act like, oh, well, you're just like uncultured. I'm like, well, fuck you. Like, you're just think you're cool because you're fucking exclusive.
Right. Well, there's that. But there's also the narrative. People love the narrative in the story, right?
Yeah. Didn't they have an AI that wrote a Harry Potter book? I heard it wasn't very good, but they like wrote a Harry Potter book.
I didn't hear about that. I believe it.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear that.
I wonder if they can be innovative. Like they can recreate like a Mozart style, but I wonder if they can be innovative and create like a new type of music or a new type of art or a new genre.
That other AI that did the haikus is working on blues and some other styles that are unique, that are nothing like anything that we know.
Oh, okay.
But it's getting back to the AI part. It's like, those automations, like creativity is not safe, analytical information is not safe, mundane tasks aren't safe, and if it has a lot of money attached to any one of those three, it's highly likely a company's going to take an AI, plug it into that somehow, and save a shit ton of money, and then put 1 million people out of work. So
you're saying that being poor is a good thing right now.
Yeah, one of the least likely jobs to be automated. Take a wild stab. What job is least likely to be automated?
Fuck, I got no idea. I got
archaeology.
Archaeology.
Because there's no money in it,
and
it's a highly analytical. It takes tons of expertise, but there's no money in it.
Makes a whole lot of sense. That makes like a lot of sense.
I was like, well, Indiana Jones is safe.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. You got Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
But I also think of things like Sophia. Have you seen Sophia?
I think I have seen Sophia.
So Sophia is a computer that is simulating human emotions and conversations, and it's not quite sentient. It alludes to it, but it's not quite a sentient being. But some of the things it says, it's absolutely scary. Like, there's even been a Twitter debate between Sophia and Elon Musk. Like, apparently they don't like each other. Like, what the fuck? And she's been granted citizenship rights in Saudi Arabia. And it's just really creepy stuff. So I look at this stuff and it's like, I know it seems like it's a long time off, but this stuff is part of our conversation now. And I want to know where I stand and what I do and don't want to do, because, do I accept taking a cell phone into my house? I didn't think about that decision. It just happened.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that again. Yeah. I don't want to just have something happen to me.
Good point. Good point, because that's something that fucking changed your entire life,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be the person I am today And I think I truly believe this without the internet or my cell phone. There are so many things I've learned and gained and grown and been hurt by, and problems and conflicts and a million different things that have happened to me in my life, all centered around technology.
Probably be less entertaining in conversation.
I probably would be. Yeah, it'd be pretty boring. I don't even know what I'd talk about. Do you want to play chess?
Yeah, just be fucking talking about Ninja Turtles the whole time. That's all I know about. I don't know.
I mean, you just walk down to the comic book store and that looks cool.
I mean, I welcome it.
Yeah,
I welcome it.
There's a comic book store you introduced me to.
Kill the internet.
What's the comic book store that you've been going to here?
Four Color Fantasies.
Four Color Fantasies. I've been going to the one in Claremont. Within just a short amount of time, you have probably gathered one of the largest comic book collections of any of my friends. And that's saying something, because a few of my friends have some decent comic book collections, but hearing about a gigantic box filled with comics.
It's addicting. But then what helped was getting like 45 comics for like $15 on eBay.
Yeah.
I've only read 3 of.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But I think some of the questions I'm asking myself about this subject is, if I get this chip, who will have the rights to be able to upload information into my brain, software wise? Like, obviously Elon Musk.
Yes to the terms and agreements.
Yeah, exactly. Like look what we did with social media.
Dude, I do it like 3 times a day. Like, yes.
Yep.
Yes, agree.
Yep.
I understand.
All the fucking time. All the fucking time. People are like, oh, nobody has my information. Do you have Gmail? Then you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, they have all your information.
Yeah.
Do you use a credit card? Even worse, buddy. Like, there's no information that's private. The thing everybody thinks is like, I only have this one thing. Well, they do so much correlation and causation between different accounts, and they can track down your address and your social security number and credit card usage and data usage on your individual IP addresses and phones. Even if you have a rotating IP, there's no way out of it. They know everything.
And your fucking fingerprints on your phone. Now your face is on there. And
Well, I did look into that, and with the face and the fingerprints, Apple says that the information is stored individually on the device. It never leaves the phone. It doesn't get ever uploaded into a cloud. I don't know how much of that I truly believe.
Yeah.
But they say it never leaves the
I guess it makes sense though, because when you get a new phone, you have to redo all that stuff.
Correct.
What was wasn't there something going on with the that like face thing that made you old, and it was like Russia or China or something? What?
So the face app, face app. It's been, so this is debate. The CIA director, I believe, or the intelligence director, I forget who, and a bunch of other people did an analysis of it and said that there's no immediate threat to the United States. My concern with it is all of these foreign farms. There's these farms that they call them in like Russia, that they're basically creating all these sub profiles of these individuals. And then trolling for political swaying is what happened with the whole political stuff. They created fake accounts and they trolled America, basically. I just thought of that. They basically trolled America. Yep. They trolled us.
I feel like Russians are probably really good trolls too.
Probably.
They like never smile, but like like saying shit to insult you without you even knowing
Take
it.
a shot of vodka.
Yeah.
But they essentially altered our state of politics because they were able to influence us negatively or positively, depending on the subject that they wanted to swing it, just to create division. My issue that I see with the Face app is it's the potential of creating an alter persona and taking that persona and using it to create a farmed algorithm that, they're able to go out and troll us again, or other countries. So,
yeah, when I heard about it, I was like, I don't know if it's real or not, but I'll figure out what I look like when I'm old. Yeah. Like how I'm going to look. I already got a couple gray hairs, so I mean, I'm not that far away.
I did the same thing. Once I found out it was designed, because I knew about the flag thing, like the there's the flag thing, and then the they put an American flag over your face, I believe it was, for a bunch of different stuff, and that was part of Cambridge Analytica, which was part of the whole Russian thing where they got all the information. It was part of that app. I believe that's how the story goes, and that information was used in that regards. But that's again a great example of AI being used in a way that the original creators didn't intend. And at what point do we say, let's stop creating these things, or let's develop some technology so that within ourselves that we can combat this thing as an individual versus, this. Like, I can't combat an algorithm is super intelligent, and if it's got a negative intention towards me, I'm fucked. Yeah. Like, overheat my phone when it's in my pocket and blow up my dick. Like.
Yeah.
Right. That's the biggest thing I'm concerned about.
All right.
Just kidding. I'm not worried about that. Now I am. But no, these are just some of the things I'm thinking about. I'm unsure. I think we have an illusion of our own self-control we have our own individual free will right now. Like, look with cell phones and all this other stuff. Like, they've been able to put nodes on humans and rats and be able to predict which way their body is going to go. But they've also taken it a step forward and been able to move the body of the individual. And when they asked the individual the experience of when they were being controlled, they said, I didn't feel controlled.
Yeah, I made that decision. And
it's like, what the fuck? Yeah. So do we want to wait for a computer system to get so smart they can't fuck us over? Or do we want to put something in our head to combat it, but it has the likelihood of somebody controlling us without us even knowing it?
Yeah.
Why do I have to wait for these two decisions? Why can't there be a third alternative?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not about to be.
That's when you go back to that whole determinism thing that we talked about. I think in the first episode was, I heard it from Sam Harris, and he's talking about how we don't have any free will and everything is already determined by the experiences that we've had and the things we've gone through. And, he talks about breaking playing pool, and when you break and, like, can you tell where every ball's going to go? Well, it's hard, but you could if you knew every bit of information, right? So the same thing with us. Like, if somehow I was able to gather every bit of information up until this exact second, you could tell what my next sentence is going to be, what my next words are going to be, what I'm going to do. And if you follow that, you can continue to tell where I'm going to go. Mm-hmm. But it feels like free will, and and that whole theory fucks me hard.
Yeah.
It fucks me real hard right in the butt.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like, realizing I don't have free will, and then wait, so why am I making these motivations? Why am I making these decisions? What's influencing my behavior to make me do those things? And then all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, like, was my original instincts to think about this not free will? And then it's like this weird fucking circle that.
And it's like you feel good in the fact that you have the opportunity, you have the ability to change your will, like what you do. Like, I want to stop this habit, and then you work to change it. But is it like? But
here's where the thing gets interesting. Would a person with a chip in their head all of a sudden gain free will? Like, true free will,
break from your experiences and your traumas and stuff.
Correct, because now you can literally have one thought. You're like, oh, I should do that. Your instincts no longer allow you to do that. Would it fucking break our brain that we could finally make our own decisions and truly hold on to those decisions and alter them despite any of our experiences, genetics or biology? Yeah. Like,
I wonder if you could be happy without being sad. You know what I mean? Like, because right now, you've got to be sad in order to appreciate happiness, right? I wonder if you could just be happy always, and it would be sustainable.
I believe there is a possibility for it, but not quite the way you're thinking. So in the book Homo Deus, I can't believe I'm going to tell the story. So in the book Homo Deus, a bunch of doctors decided to try a procedure and see what was the least painful way the patient perceived the experiment, whether it was horrible or awesome. And they found out it was a colon check. So, finger up,
That was the most enjoyable.
No, that was the procedure they decided to try. So they tried being more aggressive and quick, just get it done and fast and get out, or just take their time, do what they need to do, stay in there figuring it out, and then at the end, see. And then there was another one where they gave them did the long procedure, painful in the end, fine in the middle, painful in the end, and they tried to see which one was like. And they found the one that was like, it didn't matter. It was like kind of painful all the way through, but at the end they got a reward, like a treat or something like that. That one was like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But the duration of the experiment was so horrible. It's so long that they were like, so it really doesn't fucking matter. I can just do whatever I want to the fucking guy. It's like basically what the research came down to.
Yeah.
Just give him some kind of treat or reward at the end of it, and he was fine. So if you're looking for happiness, just a sustained level of like plateau, perceivably in our brains is what, like enough tranquility to excitement. If you have those two different things, tranquility to excitement, if you can keep those on a fairly even plane rather than an up and a down, you're fine. Yeah. That's happiness to us, which is insane.
Yeah, that's what I look for too. And I look for tranquility. And honestly, that's it. Like, I don't need any more. Like, for me,
you have enough excitement.
I don't need excitement, bro. Like, I really don't need it. Like, if I could be just tranquil all the time, I would choose that rather than being like in agony and then being in like bliss. I would always choose, like, I would rather be steady. And
if that was the norm all the time, and there was no up or down, it was just an even flat, there was no up and down, then you become the new norm and then you get bored of that.
Yeah. I mean, I might, but I kind of feel like
you're like, I'm willing to try.
I kind of feel like when I was younger, that's what my life was like. It was pretty tranquil. It was pretty easy to predict. And then my base was happy. Like I didn't really, it was very, it was pretty, like we're talking about 0 to 3 and 0 to -3, right? And I was consistently at like a 1 always, sometimes a 2, very rarely a 3, very rarely a -1, very rarely a -1. So it was like, I was always above water, but there just wasn't as much input. There wasn't as much stimulus coming in to like fucking fuck with me and bring me down the other way,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it would bore me. Maybe I would like be searching, because what happens a lot of times is you sabotage yourself without knowing that you're bored and put yourself through pain, because you're bored of being tranquil. You're bored of being happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I try not to, I guess for me, I'm okay with a little negative because I don't want us to become, you've seen the movie WALL-E, right?
Yeah.
Where they're all just being they're all sitting in chairs, fat and just self gratification all the time, and they let a computer run everything. I don't want that.
Oh, I don't want that shit either.
I don't want it. I like a little conflict, but I also like, the continued existence of my current state. I don't want to lose what I currently have. So that's where it makes me want to adopt some of this technology, but also not adopt it too far. And it's like, if you could just make it like capable that I could do that and just put it on as like a headband or something.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Down.
That's even
like,
better.
Any moment that I can just take it off and I'm out.
Like, oh, that's enough.
Nope, never mind.
Yeah. I guess too that I don't think certain things are unhappy that most people do. Like, the way I talk to myself, and that I'm happy. Like I talk to myself in a way that most people would, I think a lot of people would, like, they always tell me like, don't talk to yourself that way. And I'm like, let me talk to myself how I want. You know what I mean? Like I'm really happy with it. Like I'm making my, I'm checking myself early is what I'm doing in my head. I'm checking myself early before it slips, before I get to a point where I'm in agony. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So and I guess that, but some people wouldn't really like that. Like Toy said, like all the instant self gratification, and you just end up being a fat piece of shit. And, but going back to, what were you just saying about, that you were talking about the headband taking on and off. So another, there's things that I'll say repeatedly, and that there's a Futurama episode, and they're, so Hermes, which is like the accountant, and he's he I forget what happens, but it's part of his body, like I think he's gonna die, and they do like a transplant, and they make him like part cyborg. He gets like a robotic part of his body, and then he's like something else happens and gets another robotic part of his body. Then he gets addicted to it. He's like these crummy hands and whatever, and then he puts like a harpoon in his chest, and it just goes on. And he's like this whole cyborg, and then he finally is like, yeah, the last like weak part of my body is this stupid brain, and then he replaces his brain with like a robot brain, which is like a chip, and it ends up being this psycho robot that's always like on there. He's like a schizo, and Zoidberg, which is like the doctor, but he's like a really shitty doctor. He keeps all the parts, and they think he's a weirdo. Like, why are you keeping all those parts? And he turns him into a puppet. Right, and he's like playing with them and stuff, and then the last piece is the brain, and he puts his brain back in there, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Hermes is gone. He's this crazy robot," and blah blah. And then the whole time Zoidberg like was recreating Hermes, and then in at the end of the episode, like he was the one that saved him because he kept him together, he kept all his shit and kept him together. So it's kind of cool, and that's what I'm scared of happening is like you get this Neuralink in your head, and then you think that you want these other things, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you lose that free will, and if we actually have it, but
yeah, again, just more things.
Yeah, I feel like we have, my personal take on it. I'm no scientist or even an intellectual, but like I think that we have more free will. I think we are very heavily influenced, but I still think our free will pushes most things in what we do.
Yeah, I wish I could believe that we have free will. I don't. But I guess I intellectually don't believe it, but I emotionally feel like we do.
Yeah.
Like I feel emotionally like, yeah, I'm making my own choices. I make these choices. But then I also know theoretically, intellectually, that's not true.
I mean, I think that there are certain choices that are maybe like a percentage, like, yeah, 70% of the time I make this choice, 30% of the time I make the other choice. And I think, yeah, those are based upon my past experiences. So I guess like at that point, yeah, you don't have free will because you're geared to a certain thing because of your experiences. But I think when it comes down to it, you still have the choice to make one way or the other. Like those things, like one's pushing you, it's like a devil and the angel on your shoulder, right? Mm-hmm. And they're both influencing you, but you have to choose one. And that's, I mean,
yeah,
could be right, could be wrong, but that's how I think of it.
No, I think that way too. But I also, I don't know. I have all these polarizing ideologies inside my head that I don't know which one's right. And it's weird because normally philosophically, I can just enjoy these things and let them just be in existence. And it doesn't matter whether I believe it or not. It is or isn't. Yeah. And it doesn't affect me one way or the other. Like all these, philosophy questions. But now finally arises this one philosophy question that's deciding to fuck over my world. Do I have free will or not? And if I put a Neuralink in my head, will I get free will or will I lose my free will? But do I believe in it in the first place? And I've now got this whole cycle in my head, like free will, no free will, a Neuralink, no Neuralink, and I actually have to make a decision because I do, like you said earlier, it's the evolution of humanity. At some point, we're just going to have to accept it. How we accept it is different, but it's just the evolution of humanity. It's going to happen unless something catastrophic happens. But
It will at some point.
I never thought I would have to make this decision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, personally, I can't wait. Like when I have stuff like that going through my head, like when I had the free will and determinism thing going through my head, I just couldn't wait for the point where I didn't give a fuck about it anymore. Like most things I don't like to spend too much time thinking on because it just puts me in agony, and I'm not going to do shit about it. And so eventually I just realized like this is doing me no good thinking about this. Like fuck this. Like I'm not gonna think about it. But sometimes those things just play in your head. Like you can't get them out of your head.
On a loop.
And that's what happened. You know, I was just like it was like fucking mind fucking me. And then one day I was just like, yeah, I'm not thinking about this anymore. Same thing with like that's why when it comes to like politics, religion, like even this AI stuff, like I'll think about it, but I don't like it to occupy a lot of my thoughts because like what I think of it now is going to be a whole different thought process than what I think of it when the time comes to make the decision, because I'll have so much more information. I'll know so much more. My decision is probably going to be completely different than what it is now.
It's true. It's probably a giant waste of time right now to be thinking about these things. But I'm still doing it.
Fun. Yeah, but I mean, it's something that is your and our privilege to enjoy as a human being. To be able to think about these things and talk about the different thoughts, you know, not other species, other animals other beings, you know, don't get to do this. A couple of them get to have this, they could have different thoughts, but certain, you know, like, you know, your dog doesn't get to do this kind of shit, you know, and stuff like that. So this is our privilege. So even if it's a waste of time, it's how we're choosing to waste our time. So
very true. Very true. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah. That was fun. That was a lot of new information for me.
Yeah.
A lot of new shit to think about.
Yeah. And I think you helped me be able to kind of formulate and realize that, you know, making plans ahead of time before, you know, having all the facts is just a giant waste of time. Going back to stoicism, right? Like if you can't control it, why are you trying to? And in the moment, although I can on a rudimentary level understand my basic thought processes and how I believe, which in the future might formulate an actual opinion on something that matters. Right now, spending so much time on this is just giant.
Serenity prayer.
Yeah, it's serenity prayer. Right. Exactly. All right. Well, we love you guys. Good seeing you on YouTube. If you guys haven't seen us on there, first video, I apologize. I'm still learning how to do video editing, but this next one should be pretty nice. So, working on it. Flip the hourglass, huh?
Yeah, you guys got 15 minutes.
Let's get on YouTube. Go subscribe. There'll be a lot more things on there. So,
All right, guys. Thank you. Love you guys. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.